It isn't easy to make a comeback, but these titles fell hard on their face. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 failed video game revivals. For this list, we'll be looking at video game reboots, remakes, and remasters that failed to get their respective franchises back on the map.
As your future king, I order you to purge this city!
Number 10. Golden Axe Beast Rider. The Golden Axe franchise may not have had as many sequels as other popular beat-em-up titles, but the simplistic combat and fantasy setting kept players coming back. However, the poor quality in Golden Axe 3 caused the franchise to go dark for a decade and a half, and it wouldn't return until 2008. Unfortunately, Beast Rider just made things worse. The game tried turning the franchise into a gritty hack and slasher, but also made the combat mind-numbing while suffering from a host of technical issues. In an issue of Game Developer magazine, project producer Michael Buccieri explained Beast Rider's troubled development, citing instances of poor management, lack of resources, and loss of vision as the reasons behind the game's negative reception. Number 9. Thief.
You should get yourself one of these. See you on the other side.
Looks like I won't be going that way.
While Thief Deadly Shadows received solid praise when it launched in 2014, one would think we would have seen another game quickly. Alas, the game's poor sales possibly caused the sequel to get cancelled, thus putting the IP on ice. Fans wouldn't get a new Thief until 2014, an entire decade after Deadly Shadows was released, and the wait was not worth it.
If someone's here, step out to where I can see you.
This reboot failed to show off what made previous games so fun, and instead gave us shoddy lip-syncing, idiotic AI, and an utterly boring version of Garrett. After this, it might end up being even more than 10 years before we see another Thief again.
I can move faster, I can climb faster,
You can kill faster and make mistakes faster, I get it. You're not in control.
Number 8. Contra Rogue Core. For a time, the Contra franchise was doing very well, rarely ever getting below mixed reviews. Even hardcore Uprising, which featured a vastly different art style than previous titles, received good scores. Sadly, this would all come crashing down when Konami shelled out Contra Rogue Core in 2019.
Hungry beast! HB is actually a cyborg with a human brain. I love him so much.
The gameplay barely resembled the bullet hell nature of the franchise, with its cooldowns and slow movement, and the annoying characters showed that Konami was trying way too hard to make memes. After experiencing this mess, it feels like every Konami property is required to have its own Bomberman Act 0. Number 7. Dungeon Keeper.
Job's done, Keeper. We do love our sparklers, don't we?
While the Dungeon Keeper series wasn't as big as other franchises that came out in the late 90s, it still managed to build up a cult following. There weren't too many games back then that focused on playing the villain and killing heroes. Of course, all good things come to an end, and EA did so in the worst way possible by turning Dungeon Keeper into a mobile game.
So, you finally returned, Keeper.
With an aggressive monetization scheme, the notorious 2014 app practically demanded players to fork over money by placing lengthy cooldown timers. Want to extend your wall by 1 square? Wait a day or pay up. That was the Dungeon Keeper way, and now it has tarnished whatever new fans it could have potentially scooped up.
It's Dungeon Keeper.
Number 6. Star Fox Zero.
What's wrong? Is that all you got?
For the past couple of generations, Nintendo seems to have left the Star Fox IP back in the 90s. While the 3DS remake of Star Fox 64 was a pleasant blast from the past, Command on the DS left so much to be desired. We wouldn't get a new installment until 2016, but it wasn't the experience fans were looking for.
Boring! I thought you'd at least put up a fight! Yeah, I get it. Now leave me alone.
Star Fox Zero focused on implementing cinematic controls, which only made the game difficult to play, and the overall experience felt too close to 64. While its tower defense game Guard was enjoyable enough, Zero just didn't bring the energy we felt during the franchise's youth. Number 5. Warcraft III Reforged. What a mess this turned out to be. Reforged was to be a marvelous visit back to an RTS classic, but quickly ended up being one of the worst games of 2020. Prior to launch, Blizzard had hyped up the game by promising new cutscenes, upgraded visuals, and remodeled character designs. What fans actually got was an overpriced texture upgrade and a sleazy policy forced onto the modding community.
Ready to work. Work.
The backlash was so relentlessly fierce that Reforged has become the lowest user-rated game on Metacritic, and Blizzard began offering refunds.
Jaina?
I'm sorry, Arthas. I can't watch you do this.
Number 4. Alone in the Dark, Illumination. Ever since the disastrous 2008 reboot, it feels like Alone in the Dark has been on a never-ending ride through hell, and it's only gotten worse. If you thought the reboot was bad, you must not be aware of Atari's second attempt to revitalize the franchise. Illumination failed in spectacular fashion when it came to executing its interesting concepts, and critics were not shy of expressing how much disgrace it brought to the IP. With THQ Nordic now owning the IP, maybe there's hope for Alone in the Dark to come back and become more frightening than ever. Number 3. Shenmue 3. Despite the first two games being commercial flops, Shenmue fans had spent 20 years begging for a new game to close the Ryu's story. Plus, thanks to franchises like Yakuza evolving the open world formula, Shenmue should be bigger and better than before, right? Well, the fans got their wish in 2019, and it was quickly resented.
Thanks. I'll keep that in mind.
Shenmue 3 featured the same out-of-date gameplay from previous games, did nothing interesting to make itself stand out, and had the nerve to end its story with another cliffhanger. Series creator Yu Suzuki said he'd love to finish the supposed 11-chapter story, but after this, we'd like to find some sailors so we could sail away from this disappointment.
You're pretty good.
Not yet.
Number 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. Ever since Activision introduced the skateboard peripheral with Tony Hawk Ride, the Pro Skater series has never been the same. The HD remaster was lackluster, and Shred was a bigger flop than Ride, but the whole skate park would be demolished after the cataclysmic Pro Skater 5. In an attempt to milk the IP before their license expired, Activision had Robomoto rush through a whole year of development, resulting in a game riddled with bugs and void of any personality. What's worse is that the game's failure forced Robomoto to shut down its doors, and servers shut down in 2017, making the always online game unplayable. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are a few dishonorable mentions.
Special weapon back online.
That thing tore through the entire building. I didn't...
As intended. It'll be some time before Nazi recovers from that, if ever.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Duke Nukem Forever.
You make me wish I had 3 guns.
After taking the FPS scene by storm in the 90s, it seemed as though Duke was on top of the gaming world. While we would get a handful of spin-offs, Duke wouldn't get a new game until 2011. Duke Nukem Forever spent a long 15 years in development hell and became known as one of the worst games ever made. One word that was frequently used between critics and fans was outdated, and it certainly shows in the shoddy controls, level design, and immature humor. Duke may want to kick some ass and chew some gum, but after this, how can he when the whole world is laughing at him? In the mood for more awesome gaming content? Be sure to check out this video here on Mojo Plays. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.